Good morning, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Buckchester. You know what I like to do on my show. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Now, Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we want to get you fired up about the cycles of life. Now, we all know that life will bring us some ups and downs and the occasional round and round, but we can definitely get through them when we have someone there to help support us, to help lead us, to help guide us. It's nothing like having a really awesome team, but it's also nothing like having your faith to depend on to help you get through. Well, we are going to talk to author James Nowdomski today about his book entitled Cycles and how poetry and thoughts that he's going to share with us helped him get through the course of a life. That's right, inspiration from a man's soul at the tip of a pen. Now, you know what I'm about to say. Go on, get comfy, get cozy, because we are about to get started. Good morning, James. Thank you so much for being on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela today.
Well, thanks for having me, Doctor. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Now, I love having guests on, especially when they're talking about some real life stuff, because everyone likes to hear another person's story about their perseverance, about how you have just been able to walk the path of life and walk it successfully. So before we get into your book, I want to ask you a very open-ended question and share as much as you like, and that is this. What has made you over the course of the year?
What's made me over the course of my life, just not the year, was the way I was raised, the people I've met, the experiences I've had from the time I was a baby up till the time of my present age, 62.
Yes, over the course of the years. Most definitely. I think that all of us are who we are because of all that we have experienced. Now, a year can definitely make a difference in one's life, but I think that we are a cumulative work in progress. I love it. I love it. Now, what made you decide to write your book, Cycles?
Well, the whole idea of Cycles got started the evening that our famous rock and roll star John Lennon was shot. I was watching Monday Night Football when Howard Cosell came on, and basically it was the event of a lifetime. I never considered, and if the lady listeners will excuse me, considered writing a diary because I felt it was too feminine for a guy to do that. But I always wanted to start to remember things that did happen and occur, and that's how I started writing the book and why I started writing the book. I don't think that a lot of us ever think about how these events might affect us or change our lives.
Now, the title, Cycles, did you find that the title came to you first and you wrote the book around the title, or did the title kind of evolve out of your writings? How did that work for you?
The title evolved around out of my writings. Again, this book was written over the course of my life in spurts and pieces over the years. I would get inspired at various times for whatever reason, and then the writing would just start and flow out. And then as I started putting it together, I realized I needed a title and where I wanted to go with it. And I felt that Cycles was just appropriate enough to cover all the bases of the 3 chapters that I wrote.
Now, so many times, and you kind of touched on it in a previous answer, there's something that inspires you to write a book. Did you find that as you were writing that there were certain days that you were more inspired to write than others? How did your thought process go?
Well, it's kind of a backwards process. I would write based on my feeling at the time. Now, what generated that feeling, just sitting here and talking to you, I can't remember because it was so long ago. There are certain things that I do remember, but I would just write according to my feelings that were given to me at the time.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned before that there were 3 separate sections of the book. Can you tell us a little? I know you can't tell us, the whole of it. You have to purchase the book for that, everyone. But can you tell us as much as you can about the 3 separate parts of the book, and why did you choose to make it into 3 separate parts?
Well, the first part, coming from a Christian background, was dedicated to God, our blessed Lord. The most important figure in any Christian's life is God, and their thoughts should be with that. The second part of the book is dedicated to love, which is the embodiment of our blessed Lord himself. That's what he always preached. That's how we should live by, the old love thy neighbor as thyself. And thirdly, the third for thought, a lot of that is a lot more of my personal feelings on issues of things that happen to me directly. I don't necessarily want or need anybody to agree with some of the thoughts. If they disagree with them, that's fine.
It's interesting that you say that, because so many times when we share or we express ourselves, especially on social media, I think that people feel as though they have to validate something that someone is saying, and that's not always the case. You're not looking for validation of your thought. You're simply saying, this is my thought, and it is validated because I feel so. So I love that. Now, I love how you said that it is faith, it is love, and it is food for thought. Did you find that when you were sharing in the food for thought section, did you find that either of the other 2, that your faith played a part in your thought, or that the love played a part in your thought?
I can't say that it did. To me, I've kind of got them boxed out individually and separately. I don't know if that makes any sense, but the first 2, to me, somehow do correlate to the third part of what you're asking for, my food for thought. But at the same time, I can't explain it. It just happens that way.
No, I think I understand what you're saying, that you made sure that they were very much in the category that they belong the most to. I get it. I definitely understand that. Now, in the fact that they are in 3 different parts, are they meant to be? Is the book meant to be read cover to cover? Can we go straight through? Or within each section, can we just open up the book and start reading?
Well, I know very many of the people that I have given the book to and have given it out there to, they all do it at their own rate, at their own speed. You can pick it up, read 1 or 2 at a time, digest it, put the book down. Or if you want a quick read, it takes maybe 30 to 40 minutes just to read every passage. But if you want to sit and dwell on it and think about it, you'll sit there for a good hour and a half if you've got time just to sit and dwell on it.
I love that. And, it really, I tell people, so many times in a world that's so filled with the hustle and bustle of the day, and all that we have to do, just being a human being and the things that come along with that, it's nice to be able to sit down with a book and just contemplate, what did the author mean, or how does this speak to me, and what message can I get out of it? That don't move so quickly sometimes through everything. Take a moment to contemplate. So I love that you're able to do that. Now, with your cover, you chose to make a little off-center, if you will. So why is the cover off-center, along with not maybe perfect punctuation? What was the thought behind that?
Well, the actual thought behind it was, along with the phrasings and the punctuation errors, this represents that our Lord gave us a great gift and beauty of this planet, and the people here are extraordinary. Life itself is not always perfect. We still have murders, rapes, wars, propaganda, and that kind of stuff going on. So that's the background on why it's not a perfect-looking book, because I chose to do it that way, and that's what it represents.
And, you are so true. The world is definitely not so perfect, and when we can have those perfect moments, great. But the reality is that, like you said, we are definitely still dealing with the dramas of being Earth beings. I have to agree with you on that. As far as the illustrations are concerned, what was your process in finding someone to do the illustrations? Well, let me back up. Definitely take a moment to give a shout out to the person who did the illustrations. But why did you feel that illustrations needed to be included in your book?
Honestly, at the very first part of it, I didn't have enough written material to fill in the book, and that's what was suggested to me, have some illustrations done.
It's a beautiful way also of kind of breaking up all of the words. It kind of gives you a moment to take a break. At least that's how I see it many times. If I'm reading along in, of course, everyone not in a kid's book because that's a little bit different. But for an adult book, it's like, oh, here's kind of like a break. Here's a moment where I could take a pause. So I love it. Speaking of taking a pause, it is almost time for us to go to a quick break. So I want to give an opportunity to you, James, if you would please. Can you remind everyone what is the title of your book, where can we get a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
The title of the book is named Cycles. It's available at authorhouse.com. You can either use the title Cycles or my full name, James J. Nowdomski III. And you can keep in contact with me at my Gmail address, jim.nowdomski@gmail.com.
All righty, listeners, now you know where you can pick up a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am Dr. Angela Butchester. My guest today is James Nowdomski, and we are talking about his book, Cycles. And I love it. We all go through some cycles in life, and he is sharing with us about his book and some things that he thought should be not only highlighted with food for thought, but he also talked about faith and love in his book. So, James, my question for you, and I probably should have asked you this first, and that is the illustration on the cover. Why did you choose that particular display?
Well, the cover decision wasn't a decision that I made. I left it up to my friend Sandra, who is a great artist and photographer. I gave her full creative discretion based on the title of the book and the illustrations that I picked out for the particular passages in the book. I picked out the passages, and I gave her total creative freedom of what inspired her with the readings. The cover itself, if you look carefully, there's a man, woman, and child embedded in the trunk of the tree, which to me illustrates the basis of love in a family. You don't necessarily have to have three people for a family. Your family is whomever you are by blood or whoever you choose to be with. It doesn't matter how your family is structured. You've got family.
And I love it there. And it is so true in how it blends, but yet it's highlighted. And all of when we think about family and putting down roots and branching out and becoming other people, becoming members of our family, and so on and so forth, it is truly just a beautiful, beautiful color. The color choices are really nice, very, very much well done. Good job, good job. Now, what type of reaction or review or comment just over the years, what have you been told about your book? I know many times people come up and I'm sure want to share how, having read the book, it has affected them. What can you share about that?
Well, I haven't really heard anything bad about it, which is a good thing. But I do tell anybody that who gets it, some of the material in the book is not for everybody. It just isn't. But the reactions are going to vary person to person. My hope is that when the folks read it, it's going to remind them of the importance of God and the events and people in their lives. Even though we may or may not be directly affected by any of those events, they still happened. And whether you think about it or not, I think it's important that you do.
Now, with the thing that I do, I know that I want to inspire people. I want to enlighten people. I want to empower people. Along that line, as you were writing, were you aware of the fact of how much the book was going to inspire the reader? Did that have a difference in word choice or how you presented your thoughts while you were writing?
Actually, my thoughts had no concern for anybody else at the time. They were concerned about what I was feeling at the time, and to see if the people out there would share the same views or same feelings that I had regarding each passage.
Now, it's so interesting. I love talking to authors because there's always different motivation behind the reasons why people write. Sometimes they will say, well, it was therapeutic for me. Others will say, I just couldn't hold on to this information. And I love how it's always different, but yet the outcome is the same, and that is people read the book. People do tend to be inspired or empowered having read the book. So thank you for being honest about that. Now, will there be other books by you that's in the same format or in the same style as Cycles? Do you have any future projects that may be on your mind?
Well, I would never say no to any of that, but figuring that it took me the course of 62 years to write it, well, not 62, let's call it 32 years to write, I don't think I have enough time left in this life to be inspired enough to keep writing. I just don't. It was a project that I took on because I wanted to do it and see it through to the end, and that's what I did.
I love it. Now, one sample that, if you go to the Amazon page, everyone, and I love how Amazon gives you just a little bit of a sample of what's in the book if the author has authorized the previews. And one of the samples that you're able to read is entitled Find Me. I'm not going to ask you about the entirety of the poem, but I wanted to ask you just about the first line. It reads, I am where the oceans touch the horizon and the mountains meet the heavens. What did you mean by that? It is such a beautiful line.
Just the fact that it exists, and take the time to appreciate that it's there. That's the simplest answer I can give you. It's there. It's there for us to enjoy. It's there for us to see. There's no hidden meaning. It's just flat out. Anything I write is simple to understand for the most part. There's no hidden meanings. There's some passages and poems in there that I understand, especially in the thought section, are kind of way out there, and people might have to talk to me about what I was thinking. But that's basically it. It's there. I mean, it's there to see and enjoy. Right. Appreciate it.
I love that you said that it's very, very simple. It's really funny because I remember there have been men folk in my life, and I mean it could have been a brother, a cousin, whomever, and they say, what I say is very simple. Like, you don't have to read between the lines. There's no hidden innuendo in there. It's like, if I say I want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I really want just a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's not a metaphor for anything. And I think so many times people miss the elegance in words when it's just quite that simple. Don't make it into something else and create your own version. So thank you so much for saying that it simply is. And I love it, such a beautiful line. Now, I always give my authors who have written poetry an opportunity to talk about or to share with whatever you would like to do. What was some of your favorite parts of writing this book? Was there a particular one that you enjoyed more than any other?
Enjoy, I don't know if that's the right word, not that it's incorrect. It was just a fulfillment of what I thought about my Lord and what I thought about love. And just to me, as I said earlier in the show, about how God and love, to me, are finger in finger, hand in hand with each other, because that's what it's all about. And completing those two, it took me some time. Some of that came to me in less than 5 minutes. Some of it came over a period of time where I'd start writing something, but I'd have a block, and then eventually I'd come back to it when something else inspired me to continue on with that particular passage. I don't want to say, again, a relief. Wasn't a relief, but I finally just put my feelings out there for anybody to read.
I love it. I love it. Well, James Nowdomski, thank you so much for coming on the show and spending time with us and definitely sharing about your book. I think that people are going to enjoy it. And I always tell folks, hey, if you have a book with you, then you will definitely read it. I travel a lot, so it's like have a really good book in your backpack with you while you travel. It'll give you something to concentrate on other than, the long lines in waiting for TSA. So thank you for sharing and for giving our listeners something that they can take along with them. I want to ask you one more time to share with them, make sure everyone is reminded, if you could please, what is the title of your book, where can we get a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
Again, the title of the book is Cycles. You can purchase it at authorhouse.com. under my full name. It's James J. Nowdomski III, or the title of the book itself. You can contact me at my Gmail address. It's jim.nowdomski@gmail.com. Spell the last name N-O-W, D as in David, O, M like in Mary, S-K-I.
All righty. Thank you again for being on the show today.
Well, thanks. I really appreciated the opportunity to spread the joy.
Absolutely. And listeners, thank you for being on as well. We know that we have enjoyed spending time with you, and we thank you for spending time with us. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Bye-bye.